My name is Caitlin Wilson, and this is my environmental and cultural factors presentation as it pertains to the vulnerable population of single parents raising multiple children. So just going over some health concerns. So they have a decrease in social support, which increases their feelings of loneliness that can lead to depression, anxiety, and suicidal thoughts. They have some increased stress, which increases their risk for illness. They have decreased time and money. That leads to not taking care of themselves properly and then not going to the doctor when they need to just because they don't have the time. And then decreased education, which leads to not being properly educated about their health and other factors that can pertain to their health. In the media, it shows correctly them being hard workers that work jobs and but they still have a low socioeconomic status. You mostly only see single mothers and not single fathers, and when there is single fathers, they're portrayed as not very serious, and they always have some type of support either from a friend or their parents to help them with the kids, which isn't always the case in real life situations. And then also in the media, on TV shows or movies, their friends and family see them as being unhappy being single, and they all are always trying to set them up with someone, which may not always be the case in real life situations. They may want to be with somebody, but they don't. It's not always the case. It does show that they're surrounded by friends and family, which is the ideal situation, but it doesn't really show this population's specific risk factors such as isolation and depression and how other health factors can negatively affect them. So family support is a really important part of supporting this population with their risks. So grandparents can be helpful with providing meals, babysitting, giving advice, and sometimes money if they need it. Aunts and uncles are good role models for their kids, especially if the father's not in the picture. An uncle can be a good role model for the son as a father figure. And then they rely on their own children for support and to support the family as a whole, so they help around the house and with their younger siblings if they are old enough. And then peers and friends can also be a good support for this population. So they can join social support groups, either in person or online, and they can meet people in similar situations and get their advice on things, and then friends can be a good help to them, especially the ones that are family-centered and have kids of their own. Not only do the kids have somebody to interact with, but the parents do as well. But with their married friends, they may feel like an outsider just because they don't have that connection anymore. I don't really see this population as being cyclical in nature, just because it's very situational, and it's caused by divorce, widowing, and having children out of marriage. Their kids can learn behaviors by growing up in this environment that can maybe impact how they interact with their spouse, or if they're in a similar situation when they're older. So that's how it can become cyclical, but it's not really expected in this population. As far as the legal and political system go, the Workforce Innovation and Opportunity Act of 2014 is probably their best asset, just because it provides a way for the parents to get jobs, and they have many resources for their kids to also be taken care of while they're at work or trying to find a job. Food stamps and the National School Lunch Program is beneficial to them in the fact that food stamps is one of the only programs that serves all types of family, not just two-parent households. And the school lunch program provides breakfast and lunch to kids that are in low-income households, which is common for this type of population. And it also provides them with better food choices instead of like fast food or processed foods that are cheaper than healthier options. And then Medicaid is also a resource for them if they qualify for it. Some disadvantages of these programs is if they're not in a low income position, then they don't qualify for some of these programs. Some potential barriers to this population. The biggest one is religion or cultural beliefs. They could be seen as shunned because they are raising kids out of wedlock, or they got a divorce and that's seen as unacceptable. And then through religion, because most of them are so family focused, they could feel guilty for not giving their kids a complete family. And then some stigmas are most single parents are mothers, so fathers who are in this population may feel like outsiders and they might not get the proper support that they need. Some other statistics that I found through the U.S. Census Bureau is that 85% of single parents graduated high school, 54% attended college, and only 18% had a bachelor's degree. So while these parents got some education, they did miss out on some education opportunities just because of their situation. And then 48% of single parents work full-time, and 39% of single mothers have low-wage jobs, which isn't livable, especially if they're the only source of income from the household. And then 27% of single parents have no health care coverage. So without the health care coverage, they're just not going to go to the doctor when they need to, and their health isn't going to get better if they're sick, and they can get sick easier. So 32% of single parent families are in poverty, compared to only 7% of two-parent families. That is a really big gap there. So they only have the one source of income that they mainly use toward food and other household essentials, their kids' health, transportation, so like gas or bus money and things like that. So they're not really focused on helping themselves, especially healthcare wise. As far as race and ethnicity go, in 2016, it showed that 66% of African Americans are single parents raising kids, followed by American Indians, 52%. And then Caucasian is at 24%. So, and some of these other races or ethnicities have other vulnerabilities and risk factors along with being a single parent raising kids. So they are at increased risk. Religion can be both positive and negative for this population. Some positive attributes are they get support from the other members of the church, they're able to meet people, and that can decrease isolation. They get a sense of hope that they're not alone, and that can decrease some of their stress and helplessness. Some negatives, though, is that some religions really look down on being a single parent or getting divorced or however their situation is, so they may feel judged or that they don't belong, which can do the opposite and increase their isolation and depression, which is what we are trying to avoid. And as far as gender goes, most single-parent families are run by women, and they seem to be more involved with childcare than men are. Even though they're the only parent, that can put a lot of extra stress on them because of outside expectations for them to both have a job and take care of kids. And then men are seen as being more involved in working and then coming home and playing with the kids, and not really the rule enforcer like mothers are. So they may not be taken as seriously from outsiders, and they may not get as much support because of that. And then geographical location. So in the world, 15.9% of parents are single parents. In the US, it's 25.8%, and then there's some statistics from Europe, ranging from about 12 to 16. So that is a decent amount of people that, depending on where they live, it can also be positive and negative. So some positive things that if this type of family is accepted in the area, they're more aware of the populations, and they can get better support and more healthcare opportunities, which is where telehealth could come in. So they might not be able to leave the house very often to go to the doctor for themselves. So using telehealth can be a good resource for them, so they can get the healthcare that they need without leaving the house. Some negatives are if they live in an area where this population isn't very common or not accepted, they're looked down on, they probably won't get as much support, and the population is just not aware as much of their risk factors, and they can be more at risk for those concerns that we talked about in the beginning of isolation, low-paying jobs, no support, things like that. Some bias that I found on this population is some implicit bias is depending on the gender of the single parent, how they became single, they may be judged based on that, and that can affect their interactions with others and the support that they get. And then if they're more involved with raising their kids, they might be more respected, but if they don't have time to, that could also be looked down upon. Some explicit is housing, insurance, and healthcare. Depending on their economic status, they may be turned down for those things and not get the best resources for them and their family. And then they just may not be accepted by others in the community due to them being single, depending on the religion that they're by or the culture that they live in. And then others just thinking that they're unhappy because they're single and they need to set them up. So as you can see, this population is at risk for a lot of things, and there are many ways that we can help them, especially in healthcare. So sharing resources with them, recognizing their risks, encouraging spending time with others, and educating them on recognizing their risks and decreasing stress are just a few ways that we can help them. And here are my references. Thanks for watching.